So one thing that I keep having to beat into my own head is that rotational grazing is almost always good for the land, unless you're rotational overgrazing. You can rotational overgraze, come back too soon, and you're doing just as bad a job as you would be doing if you were just set stocking. Maybe worse, because it's at least set stocking. There's going to be a few places the cattle won't ever touch again. But what happens is if you're not doing a good job of managing your rotational grazing system, is there's a lot of negative side effects that can go along with the cattle. And so what they tell you when you go to the big schools that people have really studied this a lot is 8 paddocks will help stop the overgrazing. But to maintain or improve your cattle health and your cattle weight and your cattle lifestyle, you really need somewhere around 25 paddocks. And that doesn't mean that they have to be permanent paddocks. You could split it up with polywire. But one of the biggest problems that I've seen and that I've done, and I still probably am bad about it, especially with baby calves. And I listened to this on a podcast a few months ago, and it just hit me in the face. I mean, it's like, dadgummit, I know I'm doing that every time. And it's a huge problem, is that you cannot add milk back. Once a cow gets stressed, you can't add milk back. You can take milk away real quick, but you can't add it back. So what that means is, and the biggest issue I've seen with rotational grazing, once that cow drops a calf and she starts to milk, if you leave them in the same paddock for a few days, they'll take the best, then they'll take the middle, and then they'll take the worst. And if you're not just letting them have a lot of stuff to maintain that level of nutrition, so what you could do to mitigate this is you can give them too much pasture. But as a rotational grazer, most of us are doing this to keep things moving and to keep our pastures shorter and more cleared off and more level. That's, it probably goes, at least for me, that goes back to the hayfield side of things, and I hate it. It was bred into me by my dad, and I'm kicking it out as fast as I can. But, I do like everything to look nice. You can see behind me. For our landlords also, you got to keep the brush and the shrubs out. So it's nice to just be able to look over a clean pasture. Everybody likes that, including me. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but what I am saying is if you're going to try to keep a clean pasture and make them eat and clean up their paddock every day, you need to be moving them every day. So if you do what's called forced starvation like they do in Australia, and that's just what they call it, there's nothing to do with starvation. But it makes sense when you put it into those terms. And if you think like that and you don't want to starve your cows, because none of us want to starve our cows, then in my American mind, I said, no, I'm not doing forced starvation. We got to quit that. Doesn't mean you're starving your cows. What it means is if you move your cattle every 3 days or every week or every month, what you're doing is when you first move them into that paddock, you're giving them a big plane of nutrition. Everything's green, everything's fresh, everything's great. That cow is just gaining weight, doing awesome, eating a ton. And then we'll just do every 3 days as an example because it works well. So the first day, jumps up, nutrition is awesome, cow's doing great. The second day, they've been on that paddock already, they've pretty well leveled off, it's still okay. The third day, they're just getting down into the straw. And in my mind, that works, because what I've read is that every 3 days, cattle need protein to have a healthy rumen. And that's what gets me in trouble if I'm moving every 3 days, because you still have that dip. And what I heard on this podcast was this guy was talking about running dairy cows. And he said, that first day is great. The second day, it's okay. That third day, you decrease that milk just a little bit. He said that cow just gets a little stressed. And he said, you will never be able to add that little bit of milk back. And when I start watching my calves, it makes all kinds of sense. So what happens is if you're moving every 3 days, every third day, you take a little bit of milk and you cut it out. And you can never put that back. And so when I heard that, it just shocked me. And I said, I could add probably another 50 to 100 pounds to my weaning weights if I would move every single day. And I'm not saying I'm there yet. But it makes all kinds of sense. And I want to share that with you. If you're thinking about how you're setting things up, you either need to supplement some kind of nutrition, energy, protein, if you're going to be giving them and keep that valley from coming in, on your day 3 or your the second half of the week or the second half of the month, or you need to be giving them a bigger paddock so they experience this but never the drop. So those are things that are super important, and they will affect your weaning weights. You will see negative effects on your body condition, on your weaning weights, if you are rotationally grazing and you're doing it not up to par. And that's why. So, you're still improving the land. You can still grow more grass. You can still do a lot of things, but we are here to make money in this business, and we make money off of what we sell per pound and getting those cows bred back. And so when you look at it like this, it's super important to keep that plane of nutrition always somewhere up here and never down here. So hope this helps you guys. It's something I think about a lot, and it's winter time now, but starting to get colder. What I'm going to start doing is I'm going to try to get back to that more, moving at least every 2 days. I've been going every 3 to 4 because I've had more tonnage, more stuff, but they're not cleaning up like I want them to. And when they come back, I'm going to have to feed a higher quality hay. I'd rather just take more now and not have to feed hay until the grass starts growing in the spring. And so what we've done here is I left them in there for 3 days, which is probably about right. They've taken all the green out. Over here, I think I'm going to leave them 2, maybe 3 days, but I've split this paddock in half. It's a 5-acre paddock. Over here is a 7-acre paddock. I think I'll break this into 3 different sections. I'll see how well they eat this. So I'm actually starting to see, we pulled off of here. We grazed this in the fall, and I'm actually starting to be able to tell, we got a rain here. So this did a pretty good job of coming, but we didn't graze that one. We grazed this one, and it's coming back pretty good. There's some pretty good forage in here. Over here, I'm starting to see that, it's come back, but it's not come back. It's not a full season's worth of stockpile here. And so 7 acres, 3 to 4 days, we'll see how that goes, but I'll break it into at least 3. And in the wintertime, the good thing about doing this in the wintertime is that you don't need as much shade. Sometimes shelter if it's real windy or real snowy. So we've actually got a lane here that we can let them back into, and some trees they can get under and get out of the wind a little bit. But we'll break this off, and we can do what's called strip grazing. So we'll start here next to the water, then we could go another section. So we only ever have to set up 2 wires, and that takes about 15 minutes in a 7-acre paddock. Not a big deal. Here we just let them have this half, and then we'll open it up, let them have that half. If you want them to really do a lot more trample, like I should have done on this other one. So they grazed next to the water. The grass was still okay there, so they just stayed next to the water. They went and ate all the good stuff that first day on the back, and then after that they just stayed next to the water, which is dumb. I mean, it's a 2-acre paddock. Get over yourselves, cows. But they have a mind of their own. So what you have to do then is, if you want them to do it differently, you will have to set up your wires accordingly. I could have set up a wire. I really didn't want to, because I didn't want them just making a trail, a real deep cow trail, which they would have done. So I'm okay with it. I'll come back and we'll graze that a little harder, little differently next time. Maybe we'll catch it when it's real frozen. I won't worry about the trail. But anyway, these are all things that I'm thinking about, and I hope this video helps you on your weaning weights and your cow body condition. And again, you're going to help your land and your grass and your microbes, soil microbes, way before you help your cattle, but you make your money off the cattle. So we have to work a little bit harder for them. If you take care of your cows, they're going to take care of you. So if you guys like this content, like, subscribe, follow for more. We're also on Facebook, and we appreciate you. Take care.